So there's sort of two pieces of the question. One is around school finance being so inequitable between low-income communities and wealthier communities. And the second is around sort of theory of change. Do you fix the given system or do you try to create some alternatives? On the school finance issue, it's a very deeply vexing problem because we have state authority over public schools, and about 94% of the dollars spent on public education are state controlled. And most people who are winning in that equation do not want to see it changed. So it is very, very difficult to dramatically alter the underlying school finance equation. We are working in our network efforts with a number of organizations that are tackling that question, and how they're approaching it is a new way of talking about adequacy. What is an adequate education and where are we not delivering it? And as a civil right issue through the courts, what will be done to change that? There's a whole history of school reform suits, school finance suits. What's different is this isn't about equity, it's about adequacy. What minimum must be met in terms of the quality delivered? So there's a whole series of things around that I'd be happy to talk about. We do both, fixing the existing system through our performance fund and creating an alternative public system through charter schools. So we're not against the public system. All our investments focus on the public system. So we're not, for instance, making investments in vouchers or private schools. Having said that, we believe very strongly that most reform efforts to date have focused just on improvements from the inside, and absent this kind of looming competitive threat of a great system right alongside, they haven't moved very far. And what we found is most people think about charter schools as purely competition. We think of it as co-opetition, which is, Andy Grove has talked a lot about co-opetition, and it's been applied in other spaces, not public education. But we think of co-opetition with our charter systems, and what's happened is what began as competitive relationships in some cities has become collaborative now, because the cities know they need more great schools to get up off the ground, and they're turning to the charter operators to start some of them. It's a murky space, that's kind of awkward, but it's not pure competition. And so we're pretty clear that to us, you have a public school child who deserves an excellent public school education, and it should be publicly financed. Those are non-negotiables. Whether you invest through a system with a current finance equation or through a charter system with a slightly different finance equation, we're agnostic on, as long as the child gets a great education. So I can have an offline kind of geeky conversation about public school finance around something called the weighted student formula. Okay, give me one little geeky moment. Most people don't realize that in an inner city, you have two schools, right? One is great and one is bad. All the teachers in the bad school are getting a low salary, typically, because they don't have the advanced degrees, they don't, blah, blah, blah. And all the folks who went to the good school are getting higher salaries because they do have the advanced degrees and they have the national board certification and so forth. So the district talks about an average teacher cost per school. But in fact, this school is getting a great deal more money per child than this school. So though those kids are in the exact same district, so this doesn't even get to the cross-state diversity or suburb versus inner city. This is in the same city. These kids are getting a lot more spent on them than these kids. So there's all sorts of financial problems in the K-12 system that we're trying to tackle through a number of different fronts, and I should probably move on before I put everybody else to sleep. Yeah?